Hey, I've never done this before. I came across this channel and realized I wanted to pour out my heart's pain here. I'm going to try to share all the feelings I've been harboring lately. My name is Dominic, and I'm 33 years old. I want to tell you how my marriage ended. I had been married to Brianna, who was 4 years younger than I was. I loved her deeply and allowed her to live her life freely until she did something that was unforgivable. Despite my reluctance, I had to ensure she never repeated the same mistake. Her betrayal had to be addressed. It was a difficult decision, but I knew that allowing her to continue without consequences would only enable her behavior. Despite the pain it caused me, I knew that cheating was something that was unacceptable in any relationship. I caught my wife lying and cheating, so I took my revenge to make sure that she suffers the consequences of her actions. I met Brianna 9 months ago at one of my friend's parties. Her beauty captivated me instantly and I was eager to know more about her. I asked my friend to introduce us and soon we were deep in conversation. She was easygoing and our dialogue flowed effortlessly. She shared her love for parties and living life on her terms, ready to embrace any challenge. Her clarity and confidence intrigued me and I found myself drawn to her even more. We began meeting regularly and I couldn't stop thinking about her. She made me feel like no one else ever had. My friends warned me about her wild nature and her habit of changing boyfriends frequently, but I ignored them. I trusted my instincts and believed she felt the same way about me. After just 6 months of knowing Brianna, I was convinced she was the one I wanted to marry. I took her on a holiday to a private island, arranging elaborate preparations just for her. One evening as we watched the sunset of her drinks, I proposed. She immediately said yes, hugging me and crying, saying it was the best day of her life. Our wedding was a grand affair, the talk of the town for a month. The media buzzed with news of our fairy tale romance and strangers would congratulate us, making us feel incredibly blessed. On the day of the wedding, we decided to keep separate rooms for our belongings. We slept together at night but maintained our individual lives. We knew we had rushed into marriage and needed time to find a rhythm that allowed us to give each other space. This arrangement fostered a deep sense of respect and admiration between us. We hardly interfered with each other's schedules and didn't always keep tabs on one another. I was busy with my business and trusted that Brianna would take care of herself and let me know if she needed anything. This level of trust and independence allowed us to support each other's personal growth, while maintaining a healthy balance between our individual lives and our life together. To celebrate our marriage, Brianna wanted to go on a cruise with her friends. I'd organized a 5-day cruise for her and 5 of her best friends. I didn't feel the need to join them as it would only make them feel awkward. I had no issue agreeing to anything my wife wished for as long as I could afford it, because all I cared about was her happiness. I believed that giving Brianna the space to enjoy this special time with her friends would make the experience even more memorable for her. I trusted she would have a time and create lasting memories with her closest companions. After we got married, Brianna continued her lifestyle, going to parties, coming home super drunk and crashing into bed. One evening I made her sit down and asked if something was bothering her causing this behavior. She admitted it was all too new for her and overwhelming. She wasn't born with a silver spoon like I was, and adjusting to this new life was challenging. Understanding her struggle, I decided to give her more time to adjust to being a wealthy man's wife. 3 months passed since our wedding, yet Brianna still maintained her separate room. Though she showered me with love and we shared passionate nights, something felt missing in our relationship. Despite the physical intimacy, there was a lingering emotional distance. I couldn't shake the feeling that deeper issues were at play, causing her to keep her guard up and maintain her separate space. I wanted her to trust me completely and feel comfortable in our home. I contemplated having a conversation with Brianna about my concerns and unhappiness. Would she understand and see where I was coming from? I decided to give it a week before having a heart-to-heart conversation about our feelings and if we were on the same page. One day, I came home early to grab some papers for an upcoming meeting. Brianna was not at home, likely out with friends. As I collected my papers, curiosity led me to check her room, hoping to find clues that might help me understand her better. I started looking around for a diary or journal. While shuffling through her things, a lipstick fell to the ground. Bending down to pick it up, I noticed a paper under the dresser. It was an invitation to a private party in honor of Brianna, organized by a group of men. The note at the bottom caught my attention. To the most beautiful woman ever, who deserves the love of every man in the world. The party was a private villa owned by one of my business competitors. I decided to see for myself what this party was all about. On my way, I called Brianna to check her whereabouts. She claimed to be a sleepover at a friend's house and would return home the next evening. She had no reason to lie, as I had given her all the freedom to do as she pleased. I just wanted reassurance that she wasn't at the party. Reaching the destination, I parked my car outside and noticed no one at the gate, so I showed myself in. Loud, cheerful music filled the air, deafening to the ears. Cars lined the path leading to the villa, and right at the entrance I saw Brianna's car parked. She was definitely at the party, not her friend's house as she claimed. I walked to the front door, but decided against ringing the bell. Instead, I walked along the wall, looking for a window to peep through. I found one with its blinds open and carefully looked inside, trying not to get caught. Inside, I saw a bunch of men with drinks laughing. The music was too loud to discern what they were laughing about. Engrossed in trying to find out what was happening, I didn't even notice the obvious. Most of the men were missing a lot of clothing on their bodies. Some of them were bare-chested, while a few were just in their inner wear. They were all looking at the same thing that was below them. It was too low for me to look at what it was. I could not understand what Brianna could be doing at such a party. I was trying to give up and ring the doorbell when I saw something rising from the ground. It was Brianna standing right in the middle of all the men, with her two hands on her breasts and wearing only her panties. I was left numb. I could not feel anything. Just before I thought that this could be the worst thing I had seen today, one of the men came and kissed Brianna. She looked at everyone and laughed as they started shooting. I was filled with rage and anger. I decided to barge in and take Brianna away. I started walking briskly towards the main door when I got an idea. I walked back to the window and started to make a note of everyone present at the party. There were 6 men and of course Brianna. I was both angry and frustrated at what I could have even done if I took Brianna away. All these 6 men were my business competitors and I could not let them mock me because of Brianna. I decided to leave them and continue what they were doing. I knew that I had to figure something out to embarrass all these men and teach Brianna a lesson. I walked out of the car and drove like a madman, unable to digest everything that I saw. I gave Brianna everything that she ever asked for and even more. I was great in bed and we had a lot of wild nights and even days. I did not understand what Brianna was missing that she had to go to such extreme levels just to have some fun. Anyway, thinking about why Brianna did all of this would not serve me any purpose. All I could think of right now was how to get back at Brianna and those men who were having a wild time with my wife. My mind was consumed with anger and betrayal, fueling a burning desire for revenge. I needed to devise a plan that would make them pay for their actions and restore my sense of justice. As the rage within me grew, I vowed to make sure they paid for messing with me. Brianna came home the next evening just like she had told me. I was waiting for her at home to see how she would behave after everything that she did since last night. She acted pretty calm and composed for someone who cheated on her husband with not just 1 but 6 men. I tried to play along and ask her how the sleepover was. She told me that it was fun and she did a lot of catching up with her friends. I waited for her to freshen up so that I could implement my revenge. After Brianna came and sat beside me, I told her that I'm planning to take a 2-week business trip for which I would need a personal secretary, and that I had hired someone and her name was Alice. I told her that she would be taking care of me in those 2 weeks. I called for her in the living room to introduce Brianna to Alice. Brianna greeted her and welcomed her on board. I asked Brianna to rest up as I needed to discuss a few things with Alice. She said that she was very tired, which of course she would be after having sex with all the 6 men. That sure would have been tiring. Brianna did not look very pleased that I was taking such personal interest in Alice, but she had no choice but to agree to it. I started walking with Alice in the opposite direction, placing my hand on her butt, and made sure that Brianna noticed it. I spent about 1 hour with Alice explaining what her role would be. She was hired for the sole purpose to annoy Brianna and to get doubts in her mind about my relationship with Alice. I wanted Brianna to confess on her own about her wild activities that she had been engaging in behind my back. Alice walked into our bedroom the next morning to wake me up so that we are not late for our meeting. Brianna was shocked that Alice had access to our bedroom as well. I quickly got ready, and before Brianna could question anything I told her that I will see her after 2 weeks. Alice and I left home, and for the next 2 weeks I would be staying at a hotel and keeping an eye on Brianna and her activities. I also had to find out detailed information on all the men that were at the party. I made sure to gather as much proof of actions as possible to make sure that I cover all bases and use them at the right moment. During my stay at the hotel, I meticulously documented any suspicious interactions or behavior from Brianna, as well as any potential connections she may have had with the men from the party. Additionally, I discreetly collected business and personal information of all the 6 men, as they could not just get away with goofing around with my wife. I hired a personal investigator to look into all the men and give me reports of their personal as well as professional relationships. Brianna was a special case, so I decided to spy on her myself. I wanted to see what she would do in these 2 weeks when I was around. I was waiting for her to leave the house, as I know that she wouldn't be stupid to call any of her lovers to her home. She left home at noon. I followed her car to see who she would be meeting. She parked at a hotel and met William Wood, who was my biggest competitor. They had lunch and were laughing and smiling at each other. I could see Wood's hand on Brianna's thigh from time to time. She did not even try to make an effort to push his hand away. After lunch, Wood guided her to his car and took her to his villa. I knew what they would be doing in the villa, so I did not want to waste my time following them anymore. My private investigator had sent me a few details about William Wood. I was able to get William's fiancée's contact details. I went to a phone booth and called her. I told her that William had been planning a surprise for her, and that she was to meet him at this address. I gave her the address and waited for her to show up. She showed up after 30 minutes and drew straight inside. I had already bribed the security guards and they let her in. The main door was unlocked, as there was no reason for them to lock it. William's fiancée went inside hoping for a surprise and hadn't expected the shock that was in store for her. She saw William all over a woman she did not recognize in a compromising state. She screamed at William and threw the engagement ring at his face and started walking furiously out of the villa. William followed behind her, telling her that she was mistaken, but she trusted what she saw. She told him that she would not only be breaking the engagement, but also withdrawing all her investments in his business. I was sitting in my car enjoying the scene in front of my eyes. I told myself 1 down, 5 more to go. In the same way, I got the information on all the other men and collected proof of their infidelity to their wives, or made sure they were caught red-handed in the act. This led to most of them losing their investments or having to pay hefty alimony for cheating. I had one big surprise left for Brianna. I sent an invite to all the men from Brianna to a party at a new venue so that she could cheer them all up in this difficult time. Additionally, I also sent an invite to Brianna from all the men, telling that she was the only woman who understood them and never judged them. This party was to celebrate the bond that all of them shared with her. I made sure that the villa was ready with all the preparations before the party started. Everyone arrived on time for the party. I made sure that everyone deposited their phones at the entrance before they could enter the villa. This was part of my plan so that they were cut off from the outside world. Brianna walked in wearing a sexy red backless dress that I had gifted her. I was amused at her shamelessness to even wear something that I had given her to enjoy herself with other men, without even an inch of guilt. I had installed cameras everywhere in the villa, including the bathrooms, as I did not want to miss any kind of action. The party started with music and drinking. They slowly started dancing and kissing each other. As the party went on, I opened the link to the live stream of this party to all of the companies involved. The live stream started playing on every TV screen in both my company and everyone else's companies who were invited to the party. I had taken all their phones and placed them beside me in the monitor room. As the party progressed, their phones started ringing, some from their managers and some from their families and friends, so let them know that they were on a live stream and were being filmed. I put everyone's phones on silent and enjoyed the show with a bucket of popcorn. In the 2 weeks that I had been following Brianna, one thing that I understood was that she never loved me. She was only with me for the money and the privileges that she would receive as my wife. I should have known better not to fall for someone like her who was nothing but a gold digger. To be honest, I would not have had a problem with it because I understand that people get attracted to money, that was still okay. But what I was not okay with was that she tried to fool me by acting as a loyal wife, and she was not only having an affair but she was having an affair with people I would have to deal with every now and then. I could see the looks on their faces when they would come to talk to me about a certain deal, and make me feel inferior, because in their hearts they knew that they were having the best time of their lives with my wife. That was something I was not okay with. I knew I was doing the right thing by exposing not just Brianna, but also sending a message to all those men that they made a really poor choice by messing with me. I collected the entire footage from the party and left. I left a message for Brianna and told her that I would be arriving tomorrow. The cameras were still recording them sleeping together in one bed, naked and on top of each other. A few of the men even got up in the morning and left. Brianna was the last one to leave. She looked at the message on her phone and quickly made her exit to reach home. I gave her enough time to get home, freshen up and prepare for my arrival. After I thought that she would be ready, I made my entrance along with Alice on my side. I hugged Brianna when I saw her and then started talking to Alice. I acted as if Brianna was non-existent as I completely ignored her. Brianna stood there for a while, and when she saw that there was no response from me, she stomped her foot and left. I could see that my revenge plan was working. It has been 2 days since I came back from my business trip, and I have been trying to avoid Brianna as much as possible. I knew that all her lovers were busy with court cases and defamation cases against them, and could not contact her anytime soon. Brianna was still unaware of the footage and the chaos it created as I had blocked all of them from her contacts. As days went by, I made sure that Brianna felt ignored and unwelcome in her own house. Alice was the one calling the shots regarding everything around the house. She was the one letting the cook know what to make for breakfast and also what kind of diet that I would be following. When Brianna tried to correct her, she would just smile and tell Brianna that I have now changed my preferences and am willing to chuck out old habits and give her a snarky look. Brianna came to me complaining that Alice has been overtaking everything in the house and having a say in things that she was not appointed for. I told her to stop overreacting to everything. Alice was much better at organizing all this and was doing a much better job. However, Brianna still felt frustrated because she believed that Alice's involvement was unnecessary and intrusive. I wanted her to blame me for cheating on her so that I could play the reverse on her. I told Brianna the next day that I wanted her to spend some time with her friends, so I had booked a club where she could take her friends along to have some fun. I knew that she had been feeling a little out of place at home since the past few days. I would be busy till late at night so she could catch up with her friends and come home after entertaining herself. This would help her lift her spirits as well. I was still having someone tell her and give me reports of her whereabouts every hour. There was no way I was going to trust her ever. I needed her out of the house so that I could prepare everything for a fun ride that she would be in for tonight. Little did she know, tonight would be a night she would never forget. As I meticulously planned every detail, excitement grew within me, eager to see her reaction to the surprise I had in store. Brianna came home around midnight fully drunk. As she walked into the living room, she noticed me sitting on the couch with Alice on my lap. She could hardly make sense of what was happening. She walked towards us and screamed what the hell was going on. I looked at her, smiled and asked her to join me. She looked at us disgusted and asked Alice to get off my lap. As Alice was about to get off, I told her to sit back. Brianna was fuming with anger. She said that she knew that there was something going on between the two of us. Right from the day Alice walked in, she knew that she was not just my personal assistant. I smiled at her audacity to blame me for cheating on her, when she was the one doing exactly the same thing. I asked Alice to leave us alone and walk towards the home theater. Brianna walked behind me with great difficulty, making sure not to trip, and stood beside me. I switched on the TV and something raunchy started playing on it. She did not understand what it was. But as she kept looking at the screen, she understood what I had put up on screen. The color drained from her face and she realized that it was the footage from her night with all the men. She looked at me in disbelief as she did not know what to say. She just kept staring at the screen and finally asked me where I got it from. I laughed at her question. I was amused that she did not even try to defend herself. I replied very casually that I recorded it myself. Her eyes widened in shock as she processed my response. She stuttered, trying to find the right words to explain herself, but nothing came out. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence as the weight of her actions hung in the air. I could see the guilt and regret written all over her face. It was clear that she had been caught red-handed and was at a loss for words. She was now struggling to come to terms with being caught in the act. I sat on the couch and started watching the footage with so much enthusiasm. She was just looking at the screen and at me, back and forth for a while as she did not know if I was angry or amused by what was going on. I started commenting on what I saw on screen. I told Brianna that I really liked what she did with one of the guys. It was a skill about her that I loved. I motioned her to sit beside me so that we could go about the entire footage together. She had no choice, so she sat beside me and started watching it with her head bowed down in shame. She knew at this point that she had messed up big time. As the footage played, I couldn't help but notice the discomfort on Brianna's face, sequences she would face. I made her sit through 2 hours of footage and told her that it was entertaining. I never knew she had such close friends who were so comfortable in their own skin around her. She had nothing to say in her defense. She started very meekly with a sorry. She told me that she got carried away by all these men. She said that they talked her into a challenge of spending a night with them. She couldn't let a few men win against her, and that was the reason she went to the party. I really liked how she was so fast at making up this story. I nodded, letting her think that I was buying her story. I tried to play a little with her to see how good she was at making up shit. I told her that I understand that she was being cornered by these men, but she could have used the identity of being my wife to get out of the situation. She said that she did not want to ruin my reputation, and hence did not mention who she was. I was impressed by her story-making skills. The ease with which she was lying was unbelievable. I acted as if I felt sorry for her being the victim in all of this. Just as she thought that it was over and I bought her story, I made her walk to the dining table to give her a glass of water. I made her sit on a chair and place the glass on a piece of paper. She picked the glass and noticed the paper. It was the same invite that she had hid under the dresser. The glass fell from her hand and shattered. She knew in that instant that there was no use making up stories, as I knew everything that she had been doing all this while. She fell to the ground and started crying profusely. Tears were the only thing that could save her. There was nothing else that she had to say. She could not defend herself, as there was nothing I did that could have led her to take such drastic steps. After confronting Brianna and making her admit to everything she had done, I kicked her out of the house. There was no room for a cheater in my heart or my home. She begged for another chance, claiming she wasn't thinking straight and got carried away by the wealth and allure of those men. But I stood my ground, knowing that forgiveness was not an option. It was a painful decision, but necessary for my own well-being and self-respect. Moving forward, I vowed to test anyone's worthiness before letting them into my life. This was the harshest lesson I learned from Brianna's betrayal. Within a week, I had my lawyer draw up the divorce papers, ensuring she would get nothing from me. To further ensure her downfall, I leaked pictures and videos of her infidelity to the media, destroying her reputation and credibility. I even warned major companies against hiring her. A private investigator kept tabs on her so I could stay informed. I wanted Brianna to realize how difficult life would be without me. I made sure she struggled to find a place to stay and face insults wherever she sought employment. When she demanded a lemonade and faked a pregnancy for child support, I couldn't hold back my laughter. In court, I presented evidence of her infidelity and requested a DNA test to prove the child wasn't mine. When the test revealed she wasn't pregnant, I filed a defamation suit alongside the divorce case. She pleaded with the judge, claiming she had no money or source of income, but she should have thought of that before she decided to cheat. The last 3 months since my marriage have been a whirlwind of drama and pain. Writing this down is my way of lessening the hurt I feel. Staying on the path of revenge has been grueling, and there were times I was so depressed I couldn't bring myself to do anything. Brianna was the first woman I thought was different, but she turned out to be just like the rest, interested only in my money and property. Her reluctance to share a room now made sense. She couldn't hide her actions if we lived together. It was a painful realization, but I'm grateful I discovered her true intentions before things got even more complicated. Love is blind, they say, and for me it was both blind and untrustworthy. The walk ahead is going to be difficult. She not only ruined my marriage but also tarnished my reputation. I can see the way people look at me, some with pity, others with mocking expressions, as if to say I was fooled by a woman cheating right under my nose. It's disheartening to witness the judgment and scrutiny from those around me. The weight of betrayal is heavy, and navigating through the aftermath of such a devastating revelation is challenging. I would appreciate suggestions and opinions from all of you on how to live my life moving forward. All this drama has impacted my judgment, and I keep second-guessing myself. Any help or advice would be welcome.